welcome everyone. Welcome to TNID, and also welcome to Voices and Vibes. I'll tell a little bit about what TNID is. It's a local nonprofit 501c organization, and we focus on areas of mental well-being through projects in assisted living, education, women's support group, and various others. So if you are interested to know more or volunteer, you can, of course, check us out at TheNeedInDeed.org. And about this project that we have gathered here in the studio, of course, you're seeing me, but there's a team of about a dozen people helping make this happen. So glad that you've all tuned in and found us and are ready to listen to our guests, which I'll be introducing very shortly. Voices and Vibes is an initiative that we have just taken on to introduce you to our local heroes that have inspiring and special stories that we feel are worth sharing with the community at large and can quite honestly help each one of us in our mental well-being. That helps us in creating consciously whatever we choose to do. So with that, I'd like to introduce the guest for this conversation, Sujata Dutta. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm glad you are here. So Sujata and I've known each other for a few years now, and I think we got introduced through TNID. Mm-hmm. I know you as a singer and your husband as a singer.
Sure.
So that was our one introduction, and then there were a few other reasons we bumped into each other. Won't go in all those details, but it's been fun and nice knowing you.
Absolutely. The feeling is mutual.
Yeah. I request you to do a little bit of the introduction as to tell us, our viewers and listeners, about yourself.
For sure. So you've already said my name. I am Sujata Dutta.
Yes.
I am a woman of color. Mm-hmm. I am a wife, a mother, a friend, a working professional. Mm-hmm. I work for Target as a store ops director. So I'm implementing projects across 2,000 stores. And then, of course, I'm also a cancer survivor. So multifaceted.
Yes, wonderful. Some of them, yes, we can all relate to. And I love it that you called out all the facets, because that's what makes us interesting, and that's who we truly are, right? Multifaceted. Mm-hmm. So I take it that you were not born here and you have moved from a different country, from India?
Yeah, so there's been quite a change, quite a bit of changes, I should say.
Yeah.
So yes, originally from India, but then moved to the UK to pursue higher education. So that was the first sort of change, life change, if you will. And then decided to move to the US. So another big sort of, life-changing moment.
Of course.
So that's how I'm here.
Yeah.
10 years in the US now.
10 years, okay. And how much was it in UK?
A dozen, 12 years.
Okay. So you've been out of India quite some time.
For a very long time, yes.
Yeah. And all these 10 years in Minnesota?
Yes. And loving it.
Yeah.
Much again, some people might be like, oh, the winter is cold, but I'm like, I'll take it. I'm good. We enjoy 4 seasons.
Yeah, we also love it. Although in my case, I didn't have much of a choice. My parents moved here 50 years ago.
Wow.
So, but we love it. We're still here, and they are still here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can relate to that. You moved here 10 years ago, and was it to study or work? You said you went to study in UK.
Yes, in the UK, absolutely had that passion that I wanted to pursue higher education.
Yeah.
The US was a little bit different. Yes, absolutely wanted to go back to full-time education because that was like one way I thought I could assimilate.
Yeah.
I could understand the surroundings, the like the general culture of the US. Education is a really good platform to do that, and so that was a given for sure. I wanted that.
Yeah.
So yes, I came with the intention of moving, but went back to full-time education. So I pursued my second master's here in the US.
Oh, wow. May I ask, the first one was in what and the second one in what?
Yeah, the first one was in the UK. So I did an MSc in international fashion marketing.
Okay.
Half of my career has been in apparel and accessories, so end-to-end supply chain management. And so that kind of, at that point, made a lot of sense for me.
Okay.
When I moved to the US, I decided to do a STEM program because by then I had gained a lot of experience in STEM, Lean Six Sigma, engineering practices, etc. Yeah. And so I wanted to put a stamp. So then I did an MS in engineering management here in the US. So yeah.
Wow. Where in US?
St. Cloud State. When we moved to California, it was there, but then it just so happened that we had to relocate to Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I transferred my credits and I studied at St. Cloud State University.
Wow. Wow. That's quite a journey.
Has been
Yeah.
a fun one.
Fun one, definitely. Any experience that sticks out from any of these that you often share?
Oh, the travels and that in itself is an experience. So I tell my boys, like, traveling in itself is an experience. It teaches you a lot of things like discipline, getting organized, waking up for the flight to be there on time, and those kind of basic life skills.
Yeah.
But also like just by default as jobs, as whatever different jobs I did, I traveled a lot across the globe. And so learned a lot of things about cultural differences or similarities. I'm a multilingual. I know a few languages, Indian, but I didn't know when I moved to the UK that those would come in handy. Like there were a lot of people from Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan in the UK. And so when I interacted with them, that language, came into play and kind of created very close knit relationships. So a lot of things that I've learned over the years with the travel and the experiences that I've gained, by doing so. So it's been a fun ride, as I said.
Which languages?
So I speak obviously Hindi, Marathi because my dad is from Maharashtra. My mom is a Gujarati. So growing up, it was so naturally for me to speak in both the languages, Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati. My neighbors were Bengali, so I used to learn Rabindra Sangeet. So I learned Bangla through that.
Okay.
And then Punjabi happened as by chance. So like I cannot say that I'm fluent in Punjabi. I understand it.
Yeah.
When I went to the UK and my first job was with a Punjabi owned business, like Punjabis own that business.
Sure.
And so they would just naturally think that I know Punjabi.
Yeah.
So that's how it all happened.
Yeah.
But a lot of vendors and suppliers in the UK are from different parts of Asia. And so that's when that language ability to speak in different languages came into play and was beneficial. So
just throwing it out there, I guess, to the youngsters, if you want to network, it's good to know languages.
Absolutely. I'm still so passionate about learning Spanish because when we decided to move here, I'm like, oh, this is my chance. I want to learn a different language and I want to learn Spanish. That's still on my bucket list, by the way.
I'm envious. All those languages. For me, only Hindi and English.
That's good enough.
So you did your education, you finished your education from St. Cloud, you mentioned, and then that landed you your opportunity at Target right away?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have been there pretty much ever since?
Yes.
Okay. And growing in that profession, applying your learnings that you have learned, its own challenges and fun experiences. You mentioned that these are two life-changing events already, moving to UK, which is English-speaking but different culture, moving to US, English-speaking but different culture. Tell us a little bit more. What happened once you joined Target, and how has life progressed from there on?
Yeah, no complaints. I'm enjoying it. Life always has surprises. And so a couple of years into my role, we got another surprise. So obviously, so much was happening with the travel and relocation, and we were still settling in. But there was a bit of a surprise, that whoever wanted to give us. And so I was diagnosed with cancer in December of 2019. So that was another life-changing event and I would say this is a journey that everybody has to be in, like me, my friends, and my family. We all had to be on this ride. And so that was another of a life-changing event, I would say, truly maybe shaping the way I think now. And the way I interact and behave and value things. So that's been quite an experience, I would say.
Yeah, I would say so too. I would say so too.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit about this. So tell us who you were in your mind when this was being shared with you.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about the scene at that time. Take us to 2019.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it came as a surprise. Like there were no markers, no symptoms. I had no idea. And it just so happens that there was no one in the family or even in my friend circle that had gone through a cancer journey. So I was the first one. I hit the jackpot there. I was actually admitted for a different reason altogether. I had some issues with my abdomen. At that point, we realized later that it was a serious matter, but I was diagnosed with what I later understood was intussusception. So it was basically lymph nodes that had swollen in my intestine, which I needed surgery for.
Okay.
And so one thing came after the other. I was feeling a bit sick, but I didn't know like it would be that. And then I went to ER, and then they were like, "Oh, we've done some CT scans, and it seems like there is something that you need surgery for." And I'm like, "Okay." And so like it was just like taking in one day at a time with like the heightened sort of news each day.
Adapting to the learners.
Yes. And the severity of it all. So I'd never been in a hospital other than delivering my boy. So this was like, oh, I'm being admitted. Oh, and now I'm going to get a surgery. And a week after the surgery was when I was, like the oncologist came in, and I was like, what is an oncologist doing in our room? And she had insisted on my husband being around. And so I was like, okay, like obviously like making connections
Some
in my
alertness
mind.
went off, of course, yeah.
And then she said, well, I'm so sorry to let you know that you've been diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And I was like, I had no idea.
What is that?
Like, she understood that I knew nothing about it. And honestly, it's actually a lesser known leukemia. It's a kind of a blood cancer. So it's a kind of a white blood cell cancer of the bone marrow.
Okay.
So it's lesser known. So I'm not saying like I would have been happier knowing that I had breast cancer or something, but it was just like when she told me it's multiple myeloma, I didn't even know she was talking about a cancer. And so then she dummied it down for me and said like, well, it's kind of a cancer. And I'm like, oh, okay. And my husband was like, what?
Yeah.
So because you're not expecting that. Like I think in some ways I was getting, like I had a couple of visits from an oncologist, and I was like, I don't know why they're coming. But then at that point, they were just trying to figure out what's happening with me. I'm like, well, this is discovering, it's fine. And then when she did come and share the news, I was like, okay, it's not like my imagination is actually happening. So it was a bit of a surprise, I would say. I don't know why I didn't feel shocked or saddened. Like there was no meltdown or whatever. I just felt like, oh, cancer? Like what? Like me, are you sure? Because I'm like, and then yes, it was me. So here, at least in the hospital, they had a whiteboard where she wrote down the name so that I could sort of rehearse and say multiple myeloma, because I didn't even know what that meant, or I had never ever heard about it. And she wrote some markers so that I could just understand right at the offset what it was all about. I had the 60% cell damage at that point, so it was quite severe. It was quite serious, and I needed help immediately. And so in multiple myeloma, you only have 3 stages, and I was at stage 2. So it was quite advanced. And so we needed some treatment going immediately. But because I had the surgery, I had to kind of like recuperate from all of that before we could actually start the surgery. So I would say that in between time, since I was released from the hospital and I had to rest up and then come back and even understand what treatment was going to be, was a bit weird. I was like, I know I have a cancer diagnosis, and what am I supposed to do? Like, what if it spreads? Like, those kind of things. However, I'll say, like, I never went into this sort of mode of like, oh, why me? Like, why did this happen to me, or like whatever. I never went into that phase. And I gave the reason for that also. When the doctor told me about the diagnosis, she obviously knew it was a big news for anybody to, like take in.
Absorb,
And the one thing that she told me that has stuck with me since then, is 5 years now, is she said, like, you have the best of the medical facility here in Minnesota. You've got the most eligible doctors, nurses, folks that will take care of you. You work for Target, you've got a good insurance, so like you don't have to worry about that as well. The only thing that you might want to do for yourself is stay positive and believe that it is going to work for you. And that is something that has stuck with me, and I have continued to, remain positive despite all the experiences and that I've been through.
Yeah. And you said that it never, like, why me? That conversation didn't happen in the head. So I take it in general, you are a positive person.
I would say I got lucky there. Yes, I have always been positive. I always think about like whatever happens for the best. So even when this happened, I was like, I don't know, like, but maybe something good is going to come out of this.
Yeah.
And 5 years down, looking back, I can definitely say absolutely. Like, nobody wants to be in this situation.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be diagnosed with cancer, an incurable form of cancer for that.
Yeah.
But, despite all of that, I've had so many positive, good moments over these years. This included, like, right now I'm sitting here talking to you, sharing. I don't know if I can, like, have an impact even on one person, a positive impact. I would love that. But yes, definitely been positive ever since I remember. And then it has also helped me. So I'll also share another, you asked me about, like, was there like a moment or what did that feel like?
Right.
I actually was trying to deal with it in a positive way. So the way I trained myself was, or maybe some people would like to call it psych yourself,
Yeah.
was that I said, I'm the chosen one. And I told myself, I'm the one who can deal with this. I'm the one who can handle this. I can take this, in my stride and work through it. And so I just kept telling myself, I'm the chosen one. Maybe somebody else, I hope nobody has to go through this, but somebody else may not be able to deal with this. That is the reason why I've been chosen. So I'm going to give it my best,
And that attitude, of course, we can see it right now and has carried you through. You mentioned that it has been 5 years, 2019 December to now almost. So, of course, you're on treatment. Tell us about the education, because that first day that you described, they had to write on the whiteboard and you didn't even know how to pronounce it.
Yes.
So from there to now, where you can talk all about it, can you please share your journey of getting yourself educated and also maintaining that attitude? Both kind of go, the attitude is part of the treatment.
Yes. I would say it's more of an empowerment more than education. Absolutely, I had to learn more. And now when I think about it, that 30-day period when I was recuperating from the surgery to when I actually got to know what's going to happen, I utilized that time to educate myself and also empower myself. Like, we were going to Mayo. And so I was like, okay, what is Mayo all about? And I watched a documentary. And I was so inspired to know about how Mayo, he was just a tailor and he used to sew garments. And when the war happened, there were so many soldiers that needed suturing. That's how he started. Then his kids took over. And then, the rest is history. It's an institute in itself. And so I was like, okay, fine. Like, wow, if I ever have to be in the situation, I'm going to be treated at Mayo, like, what are the odds of that happening? And so that was the first one. Then I started learning more about multiple myeloma. I understood that there were some nonprofits that support patients and the kind of support that they provide. And through a lot of that, I tried to understand labs. Of course, at that point, I did not understand much because we've not done a lot of labs and so lab work. Correct. And so I didn't know much about it. But over the years, I learned that. So the first meeting that I was going to have with the oncologists who were going to treat me, they're called hematologists, those who treat blood cancers. Was on 13th of January 2020.
Okay.
And I started questions. So I had a few questions because I was like, I have no idea what's happening. Like, what's going to happen? What's the treatment? Blah, 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 blah. And I'll tell you, I have maintained that questions since that day. So even today, like in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have my chemo. I will have, if I have a question, still have that log. And I just say that because that's me, like, you don't have to follow it or nobody else has to follow it. But it is just... that's how I've kept myself educated and empowered. I ask questions. And I think that's also a good thing about the medical system here is like the doctors encourage you to ask questions.
Yes.
And that has helped me also co-create my plan. Like I feel like I'm being part of the decision making of like, oh, this isn't working. Should we do this or whatever that may be?
Yeah.
And so that has been an important part of my journey of not more so much about the education, but empowering myself. I wouldn't say like I'm 100% there. I don't understand everything about multiple myeloma or the labs or whatever, but I know enough to know when there's a red flag, and I know enough to say, it's fine. We're going to be fine, So yeah, I would just pivot and say like it's more about empowering yourself as a patient versus educating yourself. It's just a level up, I would say.
Definitely. And you mentioned that kind of co-creating the plan. I think Mayo lets you do that beautifully. My mother had to go through treatment at Mayo for cancer, and so yeah, I resonate with that.
Yep.
They're very good about that. And you mentioned a few times lab and lab work. So for our listeners, it's also called blood work. So
Sorry, yes.
yeah, so just wanted to add that.
Yeah.
So if people are like, "What's lab?" So blood work, and
Yeah.
that's what you're alluding to. So yeah, so tell us about the treatment plan. Now you've kind of getting educated, empowering yourself to be engaged in your treatment. Mayo is allowing you to do that. Is it like, was it surgeries? Was it, you mentioned chemo, that one's coming up. So kind of take us into the treatment plan, please.
For sure. And I did my treatment was Mayo as well as a local Frontshore Cancer Center. So it's together that I get treatment for. But for multiple myeloma, at least there is induction. So there is 5, 6, 7 rounds depending upon the person's ability to take the treatment. So it's like kind of spreads over a few months. So like first 5, 6 months was where I was getting pretty intensive chemo every week. That kind of prepared me for the next step. Typically for multiple myeloma is a stem cell transplant. So in layman's term, and it's an amazing, I was so impressed with the whole, I mean, I didn't enjoy the actual experience, but impressed with like the the development that has happened. So stem cell transplant, basically they take your bone marrow and then they treat it and give it back. So the giving back is transplant.
I see.
But of course you have to prepare for that one for a few weeks before that. So there's a lot of testing. They make sure that the rest of your organs are functioning properly. And if they're not, then you have to make sure, including your dental, care, everything. So like everything is, measured, monitored to make sure that you're ready for that, because it's a pretty life-changing process in itself.
I see.
So when the transplant happens, you get new cells. So your body actually has absolutely no cells. So at one point, there is zero immunity. Like when you're going through the process, you have no immunity in your body. Then you get the cells back. They're baby cells. So they start growing. And the rest of the system is trying to understand, like, who are these new cells coming in, and like, are we supposed to befriend them or fight them? And so there's a lot going on in the body at that point. It's quite, for the person that's going through, it is very, very intense, because, I mean, like the chemo, they give you a high dose chemo. So if I had whatever dose prior, I get like a 200 times more potent dose of chemo before the transplant. So it's pretty intense. That's when I lost my hair and all of that fun stuff happened. And then you kind of, the body starts to recover. Then there's this phase where the cells, the blood is kind of getting mixed up, and things around the body inside are getting used to, like, okay, fine, they are friendly. we can be okay with them. And so then it starts developing. So it was actually like a new birth. The day I had my transplant, I got a birth certificate. So my new birthday is on 22nd of June.
I didn't know that.
So it was so cute. I was like, okay, that's fun. So I get to celebrate twice in a year. And then, so it's literally like a new birth. So I kind of recuperate from that. And then I actually got all of my immunization, like you have for a new baby, like your MMR and your TB and hepatitis, all that fun stuff. So over a period of like the next 2 years, I was getting immunizations because it was almost like a new birth. And so post-transplant, the ideal path is that you've kind of washed away all of the bad cells, and then you go into a maintenance treatment, because there is today no treatment for multiple myeloma, but we have a lot of medication that can help you maintain a good enough quality of life. Unfortunately for me, that did not happen. So the transplant did not work for me. So if I went into the transplant with a certain set of markers, I came out of that like 6 weeks of hell and back for nothing, is how so it was disheartening, because I'm like, oh my God, like, are you seriously telling me like this is not working? Because when they take the blood also, they kind of prepare for another 2 times. So like I get a transplant this time, and then they're like, maybe in the future you might need one again. And so we'll save more blood cells for the next 2 times. In my case, they were like, sorry, like, this one hasn't worked. No, it's useless saving. So, I mean, I say it very lightly, but when I got the news, I was like, what? Are you serious? Like, I literally went through hell for nothing. But that's how it is. That's just how it is. I just had to get on with it, and they were like, well, we have a clinical trial going on right now, and you are eligible for that one. Would you like to? And so it's, when we talk about life-changing events and taking things in your stride, like this journey has taught me, like, anything can be around the corner.
Yeah.
And you just have to accept it with grace.
Yeah.
Many a times you don't have a choice. Like, things are just thrown at you.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, when we usually say, like, when life's giving you lemons, I'm trying to make the best lemonade possible.
Looks like you are. And we are enjoying the company, so I can say it's tasting well too.
It is. It's quite delicious.
Yeah. A few more questions. So you said you you have to prep for that transplant.
Yes.
What, 2-3 weeks or 2-3 months?
So for 6 months, I was getting that intensive chemo every week.
Okay.
So that brought down my numbers. I won't go too much into the details because it's not fun.
Yeah.
But anyways, it brought down the numbers good enough for me to go into the transplant.
Okay.
And the hope was that the transplant would get me into remission.
I see.
That's a commonly used term.
Yeah.
Get me into remission.
Okay. So in this case, that hypothesis that the medical team went with did not pan out the way they
so I
had
didn't
thought.
go into remission.
Yeah. So then they said, hey, there's clinical trial going on.
Yeah.
What
So
does
again, the
that mean?
hope still was like, can we get into remission as soon as possible?
Of course.
Because it's also interesting, when I was diagnosed and we went to Mayo for the second opinion, I was told, like, when I was reading about it, this is a little bit of that slippery slope when you try to educate yourself, but you don't know much about it. So never go to Google, because Google doesn't know anything. Always ask your doctor.
Yeah.
Some advice.
Yeah.
But so what I read was the typical life expectancy is 48 months for people diagnosed, average.
Okay.
So it could be higher, lower, whatever. So the first question I asked at Mayo was like, am I going to live for 5 years, whatever? Like, I need to get my stuff in order or whatever. And they said, like, well, this is, like the typical data set is for multiple myeloma is typically diagnosed in like African American male 70 and over who may have been exposed to chemicals or construction materials. That's the typical data set here.
Sure.
So you're kind of an outlier.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, oh, cool, like I'm an outlier. But then it sunk in and I'm like, okay, I'm an outlier. Do you know anything about the outliers? Like, whatever. And so when the transplant failed, I was like, is this being an outlier causing some of that?
Sure.
Because it's like,
that's a valid question.
right? Like, so it kind of like came up as just like maybe not. But as we progress and as I've progressed through the treatments and still not reached remission 5 years out, I'm almost convinced that there's something got to do with like, a woman, a vegetarian Indian woman, different ways of eat habits, things that we eat, culturally, whatever. I kind of lost thought of track of what you were asking me then, but
so the follow-up question, so now you went into clinical trial.
Yes,
because the goal is of course remission. And so how is that journey going?
So fun again, like as we are saying, too many lemons being thrown around. So I went on to the trial because I was eligible, and like of course in the trial, I don't know if many people know about it, but any test you have like a test arm and a control arm. So like test is where they're doing something, changing something. The control is like they're keeping everything as is. I wanted to go in the test arm because I was like, I need something. So like, if I'm not in the test arm, it's useless. I would rather look at some other options. I got selected in the test arm. So that was like, yay, success.
Yes.
Went on with that. It was, again, super intensive, very difficult. The initial few weeks of that medication or that was quite...
the preparation.
The prep and the actual chemo
I see.
At the beginning of the trial was quite intense. So it took a bit of a while for me to get used to, like I reacted to it. I got rashes and, so there was all of that happening.
And
but then
comprehending to what is happening with the body and all of that.
But maybe things settled in, the body got used to, this is going to be like a everyday thing, like a weekly thing. So like, deal with it. So I got used to that one. But then, so we kind of held steady. I was kind of like holding that pattern and what they call in medical terms plateaued, which is fine. I've learned to think that that's a good thing because my body is not going to remission, but it's plateaued, which means it's staying stable, which is great. Like we'll take it. So me and my doctor actually have a term, we call it, it's a boring update today. And we're like, we love boring. So, but then last year again, we had a bit of a few more lemons thrown at us. So in August, I started complaining of tummy ache again. I went back to 2019 where it felt very, very similar. And I was like, oh my God, like what's happening here? So we went to ER again, and we did all the scans and whatnot, and we realized that my gallbladder was very heavily infected.
Okay.
That is the reason why I was going into a sepsis. Sepsis is when
Yeah.
your organs are failing. So it was pretty severe. And again, it just came out of nowhere. And it just so happened that before that, I was complaining of a backache. And so we had done some scans and realized like I had developed a new cyst on my spine. And so we had already scheduled radiation for that one. But then we had to pivot because it was like, okay, we need to get this damn gallbladder out first.
Yes.
And then figure out what we're going to do with the cyst.
Yes.
It was quite painful because my back was hurting anyways because of the cyst, and then I had to have this surgery, and obviously it had to be complicated. So we could not take the entire gallbladder out, and it was just fun for a few weeks, and then I had to come back home, recuperate the same old, recuperate from the surgery, then be ready for so it was back to back. Like April I had the surgery, May was like radiation, so it was pretty intense couple of months, and then so I had to kind of like just deal with that, and radiation wasn't fun also. But I always try to look at like some positives coming out of that. Like, so after radiation as well, they give you a certificate to say, yay, journey completed. And so I was like, yay, I came out with a certificate. And somebody else was sitting in the waiting area, and I was like, I got my certificate. She's like, oh, I still have 20 to go. And I was like, I felt bad that I was rejoicing in front of her, but I also felt good. And like, here you are, like she has like 20 whatevers to go, and I just so it's been a ride, I would say, like, but I guess just staying positive and having the faith that I'm not the worse off. Like, I see so many people. I'm part of a support group, and I'm also a board member of a nonprofit called Patient Empowerment Network. Another positive that came out of this journey.
Yeah. What got you interested in?
Oh, I was approached to share my story. And then also talk about clinical trials, because I was in clinical trials. Many people have a lot of notions about like, oh my God, like, am I going to be a guinea pig? And,
is it safe? Is it
yes,
not?
Exactly. And so
most people usually shun away from it.
So I kind of wanted to myth bust a few things and, like share my journey, why it was good. And most importantly, clinical trials are not where you're being a guinea pig. They actually have done a lot of research before they actually come to humans. And they feel quite confident, but they just have to do it for a few years to get the data and to see reactions and all of that fun stuff. So I was sharing my story, and one thing led to the other. And a few months later, when they had a board position open, they approached me and said, would you like to be a board? Because I'm bringing in my own experiences, and I'm currently being in treatment. So, like, obviously a lot of my peers there are also in some ways impacted by cancer. And so we all come together to support that community, cancer patients and caregivers.
Because it's happening, it's kind of live in a way, if I can say that.
So that's an amazing resource that I had as I was going through my journey, and now other patients also have it. So it's a really good one. Excuse me. I've lost my thought again.
So the reason you took on, I'm going to rewind before we come to this one. So you took on clinical trial because you had mentioned that the transplant had failed and you wanted to give it a try, and this was a good option as any. So that's what got you into clinical trial.
Yeah, it helped for a while before I hit another roadblock. So I had to get out of the trial because I was disqualified. Like usually, so the trials have certain criteria. So I got qualified because I met the criteria. I also had to maintain, like my levels of whatever, blood reports.
I see.
For multiple myeloma is because it's in the bone and your lymph nodes. That's why multiple. You have to do a lot of scans. We have to make sure that the bones are fine. So when I started my journey, I had what is called lesions or holes in my bones from my skulls, my spine, my shoulders. I had holes everywhere, which we have taken care of that now. But so that's the reason why we have to measure bone density, any new lesions, any of that sort happening. So we have the bones being, assessed, as well as blood work being assessed. So I had to meet some of the criteria. I had to have a clean bone marrow biopsy and like some other markers. Yes, some of them are low, which is guaranteed because it's an immunosuppressing treatment. And so your white blood cells are always low, your platelets are always low, I'm immunocompromised, and so on and so forth. But because I had developed that cyst on my spine, that itself was like, okay, it almost felt like the disease was progressing.
Yeah.
And so I kind of became no longer eligible for the trial, and so I had to come out of the trial.
Okay, and now you're not in the trial.
I'm not in the trial, but we continue to have the exact same protocol. So my doctor was like, yes, we developed a cyst, we were able to zap it with the radiation, but other than that, we felt that the markers were generally okay. So maintaining that plateau position was still good with this medication, and so I continue to have that every 4 weeks. I get the chemo. It's the same medication.
Okay, so the treatment plan continues,
yes,
but not labeled as a in the test case.
Yes.
And then back to the thought process on being the patient advocate.
Yes.
So you're on the board. I take it that being an outlier in that previous conversation must have had to motivate to now let me tell my story and bridge the gap of this outlier.
Yeah, that was absolutely the reason why I began to feel more confident of that thought that I had, that the medication didn't work for me because it was not meant for me. You know, like when the data set is of a certain subset of people in the community, I do not belong to that one, but I'm being given the same medication. It's probably not working. So I've done a lot of support and even been part of research where focuses on like Asian population, like those with multiple myeloma, like what are their experiences, what are some of the nuances, that the patients have. For example, as I said, like I'm a vegetarian. And so even initially when I had to work a diet plan, it was so difficult because like obviously the nutritionists are not so familiar with the kind of food that we eat.
Correct.
And so it became so difficult for them, like, obviously like chicken and eggs are high, they have very high protein content. And I was like, but I don't have that. And so it became so difficult for them. But again, like that empowerment came into play. And I'm like, we have a pretty wide variety of food, in our in our everyday. So there's legumes that have like a high protein value. There are nuts, there are fruits, there's cauliflower. There's just so much. So that kind of motivated me to...
I'm smiling because I'm a vegetarian too, so I can relate.
You can understand. But that was like the thing to say is like, maybe people need to understand that, like one size fits all doesn't really fit all.
True.
Sort of a thing. And especially with multiple myeloma, it's a very individualized cancer. So if a medication, like I take oral chemo every day, that's working for me. But for some patients, it might have a reaction. So they may develop a reaction to the same medication that I'm taking.
Okay.
And so even more so, because this is such an individualized cancer, I was like, there is more need to firstly start talking about it, to even bring out the differences. And then if there's any way that I can help influence some of the research, some of the studies, some of the medical outcomes, then I would love for that to happen. I know I'm not there yet, but nonetheless, I'm very passionate about advocacy because I'm in this journey, unwillingly. But now that I'm in this journey, I want to lend my voice. And I also want to pay it forward. Like there are a lot of people, somebody else went through a clinical trial and approved the medication that I'm having today. So one of the passions that I had then was like, absolutely, I want to be in a clinical trial. Even before I started the journey and we went to Mayo to say like, is this okay, not okay, whatever. And they had asked me this question, like, if ever you have a chance to be part of the trial, would you? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And then it actually happened to be like, that was the only option I had at that point. But all going to say like, that's been an underlying sort of theme, I would say, with my dealing with this situation is like, there's always been this idea of like, what can I do to obviously improve my situation? But then I also know a lot of people that don't have this. They don't have an insurance. They don't have a family. They don't have a community that comes to support them. My husband is my caregiver and has been part of this journey since day one, rock solid. My kids, my boys. So not everybody has this.
Not everybody, true.
And so I always look at those not to make myself feel good about it, but to be there for them in any way. I don't know how I can be there for them, but I would love in whatever ways to be there. So when I got this board membership, I was like, okay, maybe this is my platform where I can lend my voice in whatever way possible. And even if I'm giving hours to draft a plan for the strategy for the next 3 years, that itself is a good one. For me, that's great. Like, it's not literally talking to someone one-on-one, but even developing an ecosystem that could help people is good for
and
me.
raise awareness
You know,
about
exactly.
specifically, like you said, Asian, vegetarian. I mean, there's enough
Yeah.
nuances,
Yes.
let alone which we didn't really get into the technical details, that you said that this is unique to each patient.
Yes.
So that already medical community knows.
Yes.
But then you are adding the layer of uniqueness, as in the vegetarian and
Yes.
Asian and woman and all of that. So
Yeah.
wonderful, great work.
Yeah, the one, I mean, if I can, like, you know, we have turmeric as it's a part of our culture, our
Yeah.
routine, our food, religion, you know,
Yeah.
everything.
Many people know the curcumin.
Yeah,
chemical.
curcumin. Yeah, that's the latest curcumin.
Yes.
But anyway, you know, like, and so initially when I started, I knew like turmeric was a good, you know, like it's a anti-inflammatory, and basically inflammation is like a big part of multiple myeloma.
Yeah.
And so I asked my doctor, can I have it? And she was like, well, we don't know if that's, you know, like it's not research. So I wouldn't say yes, but if you feel confident about it, you can go ahead and have it. And I'm like, I didn't want to mess up with the medication because sometimes they have an impact on the medication. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm not going to have any medication as far as curcumin is concerned, but I incorporated raw turmeric in my, so I juice every morning.
Okay.
And we have raw turmeric in that every day.
Okay.
I don't know if that helped with the plateau or no, but I just know that turmeric is such an integral part of our diet,
Yeah.
our religion, our culture. You know, when we were young, if I got any scab or my mom would just put some turmeric. So, you know, like, but if I say something here, people are like, what?
Yeah.
Like turmeric, you know? So I was like, well, for me, it's intrinsic. It's, you know, so it's not feeling like I'm doing something over and above it.
Yeah. That's
So I
you.
add it. Exactly.
Because you grew up on it.
Yes. And the reason I say this is, you know, this is each one's journey. You kind of decide the path in some ways for yourself, but you know, deep inside what works for you and what is you, like what is authentic, what feels authentic to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, like as I'm talking about myself and hopefully I have some, you know, impacting somebody in a positive way, I just want them to know that my journey is, we're talking about cancer, but there could be any life threat, you know, life-changing events for people. It is just how you embrace it and how you make it your own.
Right.
Probably helps overcome some of the challenges along the way.
And of course, it has to first be accepted. So going back to your turmeric example, you know, while there's no research, or maybe there is some research, there's enough research out there that says that if the mind can map it, accept it, then it impacts our body. And so who knows, that turmeric is really doing the plateauing, and we're happy that it is.
I'll gladly take it.
Yeah. So, and you're right, that yes, no matter what the journey is, if we can kind of take ownership of it, stay positive, then definitely this applies to any situation. Absolutely. It's not unique to the myeloma, or it's not unique to cancer in general, or any ailment condition. It applies to any facet of life.
Absolutely.
Before we close, as we're getting to closing, any specific memory you have that you'd like to share, good or not so good? One that I'd like to specifically ask is the timing that you layered was from 2019 December to now, and COVID was in there. Does COVID factor in here at all?
COVID does, and for us it was a blessing because obviously when you're going through chemo, and in my case it was suppressing the immunity, so like I obviously was immunocompromised, and so it was the best time if I had to choose, because there was nobody coming to visit me. Like, typically family would love to come and visit and, you know, help out in whatever way possible, but for me it worked out really well because there was no one coming, no one going, whatever. Yes, friends were leaving food you know, outside.
So from immunity point of view, that helps. That's your basis, basically.
And then after the 6 months of treatment, when I went to Mayo for the treatment, also Mayo was like, at that point, like they were much lower attendance-wise treating people, but they only had like the patient and one caregiver. So like generally also it felt a little less busy, and so that kind of worked well for us. So COVID in a way was like a boon, I would say. Because of the situation that I was in. Not, I mean, like, not for whatever the rest of the world was going through.
Easier to handle.
Yeah.
It made it easier to handle your situation.
Yeah.
Any personal reaction from anyone that you remember in this journey as you educated, empowered, coped, and now become an advocate in this journey that you'd like to share? Any memory?
Yeah, I would say I'm not an avid reader, but I do read here and there or whatever. And I read a very interesting article about article about 10 things that you should not say to a cancer patient,
Yeah,
which
please share.
which related. I don't remember all 10 of them, but typically, you'll always hear people saying, hey, you've got this, and I'm like, I haven't got it really. I don't know what's happening. I have no idea what's coming my way. So, yes, it is probably people thinking like, I'm going to give some positive
Yeah.
thoughts to this person.
Yeah.
But, that person is in such a sinking ship kind of a situation. You're like, it's fine. Just say like, lean into me. I'm here for you. That's better than saying like, you got this. So in a way, you're also saying like, you got this, you figure it out.
Yeah.
Which you don't, like, I know people are not saying it. Everybody's coming
But
from
that's what it could sound like to
sound
the
like
receiver.
yes, exactly. And so, I mean, it's like funny, but also like not so funny in a way where somebody is going through like a lot.
Yeah.
And like I'm making it sound really funny and like, yes, I'm making it sound very casual. It's not. It is very intense. And it's not fun. I have to prepare myself for chemo. I get chemo every 4 weeks, and so I've got to mentally prepare. I'm like, okay, tomorrow's chemo, whatever. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. Like pepping myself up or whatever, which is not fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what it is. Like take it or leave it. Like I can't do anything about it. Also, I think I shared this with you earlier. Also, like I didn't want to. I only have two options. I can either sulk, like crib. Or I can stay positive and say like, what the heck, like I've got this, So I've decided the latter.
Yeah.
And so
and that's what we'd like our listeners at least to take away.
I hope you definitely, each one of us has it in us to handle any adversity, I would say.
Yeah.
Like even, I mean, I've worked for so many years, like, in different countries, continents, traveled, whatever. There have always been ups and downs with the job, insecurity. Right now, also, a lot of people, me included, are feeling a sense of anxiety, because of whatever's happening around us. But, there is a way to deal with that. Like, for me, it's like I have to listen to myself. If I'm tired, I just rest up. I do 45 minutes of yoga every morning. That's my routine. Like that's how I have sort of build the system around me. Like I cook homemade food. I do not, like that's the thing that I like, is that I'm just going to have freshly made food. But that's working.
This is your nurturing toolkit.
Exactly. That's what's working for me. It doesn't have to be like for you, but what I'm saying is like, you've got it in you. You can develop a plan for yourself.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people who said like, you asked me like something that people said and that stuck to me. Somebody was like, why don't you start writing a blog?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, but I don't want to. It's not coming naturally to me.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who are coming from a nice place.
Right.
But like I'm like, I don't want your advice. I'm okay. Like I can deal with this. So,
and each person is unique.
Exactly.
So a blog may work for some. Being on the board for advocacy may work for the other.
Yeah.
Or like you said, cooking homemade food may work for. So just pick your own. And the best way to is listen to your body and know yourself.
Exactly. And if you're tired, you're tired. You just put your feet up and rest.
Yeah. Do your treatment is still going on?
Yes.
Do you know when it'll end?
No. We don't have a cure for multiple myeloma, so it's going to be a long haul.
It's ongoing journey.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of the things that's happening in life. You're a mom, like you said, you have boys. You're a wife. Your husband's your caretaker. You're working at Target. I already gave it away that you're a singer. So among many, this is one of the facets.
Yeah.
And you're handling it beautifully.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. It was lovely chatting with you.
It was lovely having you. Thank you.
Thanks.